So I think there's an important distinction to make between, say, work as freely chosen, effortful projects versus work as something which is forced upon us in order to make a living. Under capitalism, the means of production are taken away from workers. Workers therefore have to sell their labor power in order to make money, in order to survive. That is different from freely chosen projects. So, for instance, you can imagine a world where your basic means of existence are provided for, and you're still working, but you're doing it on a freely chosen level. So you are focusing on spending time and learning a philosopher, spending time doing art, spending time taking care of family or helping out in the community. All of that is effortful. It takes time. It takes demands on us, but it's freely chosen. And I think that's the really important part, is that the post-work world is not a negation of these sort of projects and the dignity that a project can give us. Instead, it's a liberation from all of these sort of nonsense bullshit jobs, which are basically completely undignified and not offering that sort of dignity to people. We have to change, in the first place, the common sense of people. We have to change the hegemonic ideas in existence at the moment. People are so tied down to this idea, not only that work is good, but that work is necessary in order to be valued in the first place. And it's a very particular idea of work that people value. So if you're doing unpaid work at home, if you're taking care of children, for instance, that's not counted as work. That's not valued in the same way. So I think we really need to change our conceptions of work, and this is something that can happen on a public level, and getting people to think about alternative conceptions of what work might mean. Possibly rethinking education entirely. So not a focus on reading, writing, and arithmetic, but more and more of a focus on social skills, more and more of a focus on affective skills. I think that this could possibly help people continue to have jobs once automation starts to hit certain sectors. But I think the bigger question is, well, do we actually want to force people into jobs? Or do we actually want to liberate more free time for everybody? And I think that that's the core sort of question that we as a society have to ask ourselves and have to answer at some point. Well, if you were given a basic income, would you still do work, still do productive things? And I've yet to meet somebody who says, no, actually, I would just sit on the couch and do nothing. I think it's a sort of mythical figure, this idea that there's these people who would do nothing if they were given money. And it's a mythical monster which is designed to scare us away from these sorts of ideas. I don't think it actually exists. When we look at actual benefits claimants, people who are on the welfare system, their lives are not easy, their lives are not simple. It's a lot of stress, it's a lot of work in various ways, even if it's not paid labor. These people's lives are not, lazy. The question to be asking is not just how do we make people aware of something, but how do we give them power? So, yeah, there's interesting research on the ways in which people conceive of the economy. And one way in which they conceive of it, particularly in the UK, is as a rigged economy. This idea that people at the top have basically built up the system to benefit themselves. Now, they're aware of that. The average person's aware of that, but it's also politically demobilizing because they think they have no power over that. So, aware of it, but it's not politically mobilizing. I think that's the real thing to avoid.
Welcome to the Present Changemakers. We interview changemakers weekly to create a global collective voice towards positive progression that you can take part in. Today, we have Professor of Communication, Journalism and Cinematic Arts at the University of Southern California, Dr. Henry Jenkins, with us discussing his project on awakening our civic imagination. How would you explain the concept of civic imagination and the role of imagination in politics?
So by the civic imagination, we mean we're sort of trying to understand what's the role of the imagination in politics. Before you can change the world, you've got to imagine what a better world looks like. You've got to imagine what the mechanisms of change are. You've got to see yourself as an agent capable of change. You have to feel yourself connected with a larger community of people working to achieve change. You have to be able to have empathy for people whose conditions are different from your own to bring about change. And you all, if you're subordinate and marginalized, you have to imagine what equality feels like before you experience it directly. So all of those are drivers of change. I'm interested in how do young people create the symbols that express for them those potentials of change? How do we awaken the civic imagination?
What's your view on participatory politics in raising hopes to foster a more engaged society to overcome structural inequalities?
The first step is to develop voice, not just individual voice, which neoliberal cultures are really good at fostering individual voice, but what we want to do is foster collective voice. So I would say the Black Lives Matter movement right now is a very effective use of fostering collective voice to call out racialized police violence that might have been treated as isolated incidents in the past, but by showing patterns all over the US, we're starting to see systemic racism at work. And we're starting to understand what systemic racism looks like. And we're starting to find a voice collectively to challenge police authority.
You've mentioned spotting a global movement of using shared symbols in activism. Can you elaborate?
I think it's partially about activity, right? The digital makes visible the connections between our lives. That we're no longer just living in a single national context. We know people online who are experiencing the same things we do, but they're on the other side of the planet. So that sense of connection between people's lives is really powerful, as is a kind of porousness of communication, the idea that something that takes root in one country spreads rapidly across the planet. That we could organize things effectively through networks in order to bring people together all over the planet is an important part of that. But also a shared cultural reference. So one symbol that we're interested in is the three-finger salute from the Hunger Games, which is being used as a symbol of resistance around the world. It's been spotted in Thailand. It's been spotted in the umbrella movement in Hong Kong. It's been spotted among Brazilians. It's being used to organize fast food workers in the American South. So as we start to develop shared symbols, often rooted in pop culture that mass media distributes around the world, but that's being taken up and used by networked cultures, grassroots cultures around the world, the symbol opposition to the power will come from disruption worldwide at the same time. And the same way that we can see Trump's election and Brexit and the disruption of the Brazilian government and any number, the right-wing movements across Europe, all of those are interconnected in terms of institutional politics. So why shouldn't grassroots politics be equally interconnected?
So, to quote Henry Jenkins himself, that's the goal. Training people across courses and interests, and then sending them out into the world to work collaboratively to bring about social change. Now that's all for the present changemakers tonight. See you next week.
Require a visa? Need to fill in immigration forms? Now fret no more. This card allows you free access to every single country. Now you didn't hear me wrong, every single country. It's the Global Citizenship Card. Now what details do we need on the card? Not your usual boring data. Here's what we need. Name, date of birth, level of emotional sensitivity, and life purpose. Take a picture however you want it. Free access, no barriers. Get your card now.